Hello students, so this is the second part of class 11 chapter birth from supplementary book Snapshot. We have already done first part where we have seen that the baby is born, but baby is born lifeless. Now let's see how this doctor faces this situation. Page number 67. As he gazed at the still form, a shiver of horror passed over Andrew. He gazed at the stillborn child. He was not expecting that the child would be lifeless baby. But now when he saw that the baby is lifeless, he shivered. After all that he had promised. Why he shivered? Because he had promised this couple that he will do his best. They will get their baby. But now baby is there, but he is lifeless. His face, heated with his own exertions, chilled suddenly. Naturally, he felt chilled because the baby was lifeless. He hesitated, torn between his desire to attempt to resuscitate the child and his obligation towards the mother. Naturally, now the doctor was in a fix what to do because he was not having any assistant. So now he saw that he needs to attend first the mother also, and the baby also needed his services. So now it was very difficult situation what to do, whom to attend first, because the mother was also very weak towards the mother who was herself in a desperate state. The dilemma was so urgent. Naturally, he was in a fix, he was in a dilemma, whom to attend first, but the dilemma was so urgent, he did not solve it consciously. Blindly, instinctively, he gave the child to the nurse and turned his attention to Susan Morgan, who now lay collapsed. So he could not think maybe consciously, he could not calculate what he should do. He only did one thing, that he decided that he would first of all attend the mother. So he gave the baby to the midwife, to the nurse, and he turned towards Susan Morgan, who now lay collapsed, almost pulseless. Why pulseless? Because she was given anesthesia and not yet out of the ether. Ether is that anesthesia which was given. She was still not out of the effect of that anesthesia. Yet not yet out of the ether upon her side. The haste was desperate. Now naturally he wanted to do everything in a haste because he knew that he should work, in that way that he is able to save both mother and the child. So that's why he was in a hurry. The haste was desperate, a frantic race against her ebbing strength. Ebbing means which is decreasing. He looked at the mother. He knew that he should do something very quickly because the mother's strength was decreasing. It took him only an instant to smash a glass ampule and inject the medicine. Then he flung down the hypodermic syringe and worked unsparingly to restore the flaccid woman. Flaccid is very weak. So what he did? He just took one syringe, filled the syringe with the medicine and injected the medicine in the body of the lady who was very, very weak. After a few minutes of feverish effort, her heart strengthened. He saw that he might safely leave her. He swung round in his shirt sleeves, his hair sticking to the damp robe. Now after giving the injection, after a few minutes, he again saw the pulse, felt the pulse of the lady, and now the pulse was coming back to its normalcy, and now he knew that the mother is out of danger. And now he could turn his attention towards the baby. Where's the child? So he turned towards the nurse, and nurse was not having the child in her hands. So that's why he asked, where's the child? The midwife made a frightened gesture. She got frightened because she had placed it beneath the bed. Because she was not a, we can say, proper nurse, she was a midwife only. So she could not judge that the baby is not dead baby, he is only lifeless, he is not breathing only. Actually, she took it as dead baby, that's why she had placed the baby under the bed. So that's why she was frightened when the doctor was asking for the baby. In a flash, Andrew knelt down, fishing amongst the sodden newspapers below the bed. Sodden is which are extremely wet. So under the bed there were so many things. So maybe some papers were also lying over there, and these newspapers were wet newspapers. And he fishing means he searched among those things, and then he caught the baby. He pulled out the baby, the child, a boy perfectly formed. Now only maybe for the first time he had seen the baby, because maybe when the baby was born he was in a hurry to maybe, or he was in a dilemma whom to attend first. So that's why maybe he could not see the baby properly. Now the baby was in his hands, he could see the baby properly, that the baby was perfectly formed body. Okay. The limp warm body was white and soft as tallow. The cord, hastily slashed, lay like a broken stem. The skin was of a lovely texture, smooth and tender. The head lolled on the thin neck. The limbs seemed boneless. Now what he noticed, that the baby was perfectly formed. Beautiful baby it was, baby boy it was. The only thing was that the baby was not having strength in his body. Okay. So that's why baby was very weak, and the head was lolling here and there only, means he was not able to, we can say, control the body. So this is the condition of the body which he saw. Still kneeling, Andrew stared at the child with a haggard frown. Means he was really very tired. He looked at the baby, now what to do? The whiteness meant only one thing, asphyxia, pallida, and his mind, unnaturally tense, raced back to a case he once had seen in the Samaritan, to the treatment that had been used. Instantly he was on his feet. Now, when he saw the baby, he understood that the baby is not getting oxygen. This is the case of asphyxia, lack of oxygen. And then he remembered one case, which maybe as assistant doctor, he might have seen in that hospital. So now he thought that he should do something like that only. Get me hot water and cold water, he threw out to the nurse, and basins too, quick, quick. But doctor, she faltered. She faltered means she wanted to say something, but she could not get that confidence. Maybe she was trying to say something. Her eyes on the pallid body of the child. Quick, he shouted, but he did not want to listen to anything at that time. He said, just quickly, bring hot and cold water basins. Snatching a blanket, he laid the child upon it and began the special method of respiration. The basins arrived. So first of all, he tried special method of respiration, but nothing happened. Then the basin arrived. The ewer means very large sized jug, and the big iron kettle. Frantically, he splashed cold water into one basin. Into the other, he mixed water as hot as his hand could bear, means lukewarm water. Then, like a crazy juggler, now into the he hurried the child between the two, now plunging it into the icy, now into the steaming bath. So now what he started doing, he put cold water in one basin and lukewarm water in the other basin, and he started putting the child in hot and then cold water, cold and then hot water. This way, like a juggler, he started doing it. 15 minutes passed. So continuously he did it for 15 minutes. 15 minutes passed. Sweat was now running into Andrew's eyes, blinding him. One of his sleeves hung down, dripping. His breath came pantingly, but no breath came from the lax body of the child. Lax means lifeless body. 15 minutes continuously he was doing, but there was no result. A desperate sense of defeat pressed on him, a raging hopelessness. Now after 15 minutes when there was no result, he was becoming hopeless. He felt the midwife watching him in stark consternation. Means she was, this midwife, this nurse, she was surprised what the doctor was doing. She was just looking at it. While there, pressed back against the wall, where she had all the time remained, her hand pressed to her throat, uttering no sound, her eyes burning upon him, was the old woman. In the same room, there was old women also. That grandmother of the child was also there, and she was continuously maybe praying to the God. He remembered her longing for the grandchild, as great as had been her daughter's longing for this child. All dashed away now, futile, beyond remedy. The floor was now a draggled mess, means very untidy. So many things was scattered here and there. Stumbling over a sopping towel, Andrew almost dropped the child, which was now wet and slippery in his hands like a strange white fish. Actually, for the last 15 minutes, the child was in water only, and now the child was becoming slippery. So he just dropped the child on the wet towel. For mercy's sake, doctor, whimpered the midwife, it's stillborn. Naturally, when the baby is stillborn, very carefully the baby is touched. But here the doctor maybe just put the child in that way that the nurse could not control, and she said, please, this is newborn. Andrew did not heed her. Beaten, despairing, having labored in vain for half an hour, he still persisted in one last effort, rubbing the child with a rough towel. Though we always use very soft clothes at that time when the child is newborn, but here with rough towel he started rubbing the child because he just wanted that the child should start feeling. Okay, rubbing the child with a rough towel, crushing and releasing the little chest with both his hands, trying to get breath into the limp body. Now he started rubbing the body and then pressing the chest also, so that the child feels suffocation and maybe he would start breathing. And then, as by a miracle, the pygmy chest, means very small chest, which his hands enclosed, gave a short convulsive heave. Convulsive means suddenly, heave means coming up, because he was pressing the child with cupping the hand, and when he put the hand, suddenly once he felt as if the child's chest is giving a push from below to the hand, and the chest wants to come up. Another and another. It's not once only. He tried to feel, yes, it was true. The child's chest was trying to come up. Andrew turned giddy. Giddy means very, very happy. Naturally, this is what he was desperately wanting. The sense of life springing beneath his fingers after all that unavailing striving, useless striving, was so exquisite. It was so beautiful to see that the child was trying to come up. Means child's chest was trying to come up. It almost made him faint with happiness. He redoubled his efforts feverishly. The child was gasping now. He redoubled efforts, and the child was gasping now, deeper and deeper. A bubble of mucus came from one tiny nostril. When the child was gasping, and then suddenly he saw that liquid in the nostril, one of the nostrils. So this was a sign of life actually. Deeper and deeper, a bubble of mucus came from one tiny nostril, a joyful, iridescent bubble. Iridescence, which is very shiny. So naturally, at that moment, this liquid, we can say that sticky, thick liquid looked very beautiful because actually it was the sign of life. The limbs were no longer boneless. The head no longer lay back spinelessly. The blanched, means pale skin was slowly turning pink. Then exquisitely came the child's cry. Now gradually the life came back and the child was no more now white. The skin was becoming pink. It means because the blood flow started and everything started and the child started crying. Dear Father in heaven, the nurse sobbed hysterically. It's come alive. Andrew handed her the child. He felt weak and dazed. About him, the room lay in a shuddering litter. Blankets, towels, basins, soiled instruments, the hypodermic syringe impaled by its point in the linoleum, the ewer knocked over, the kettle on its side in a puddle of water. Upon the huddled bed, the mother still dreamed her way quietly through the anesthetic. Mother was still not out of that anesthesia. The old woman still stood against the wall, but her hands were together. Her lips moved without sound. She was praying. This would be grandmother. Mechanically, Andrew wrung out his sleeve, pulled on his jacket. I will fetch my bag later, nurse. he went downstairs, through the kitchen into the scullery. Scullery is actually attached, we can say, room where dishwashing is done and all these things. He went downstairs, through the kitchen into the scullery. Scullery is actually one, we can say, room adjoining to the kitchen where dishwashing etc. is done. His lips were dry. At the scullery, he took a long drink of water. He reached for his hat and coat. Outside, he found Joe standing on the pavement with a tense, expectant face. "All right, Joe," he said thickly. "Both all right." It was quite light, nearly 5 o'clock. A few miners were already in the streets, the first of the night shift moving out. As Andrew walked with them, spent and slow, here spent means fully tired, spent and slow, his footfalls echoing with the others under the morning sky, he kept thinking blindly, oblivious to all other work he had done in Blanley. "I have done something, oh God, I have done something real at last." So this way he was just thanking God that something great I think I have done today. And he was maybe thanking God that he only helped this doctor in saving the baby. So this way, now these two videos are with you for this chapter. So when you are watching these videos, once again, keep your book and pen in your hand. And through this, you will be able to prepare very well. Thank you.